180,000 Americans each year. Well, now to the 2014 midterms. Right now, Democrats hold a 55-45 majority if you count the two independents that caucus with them. An advantage that Democrats acknowledge is mostly due to Tea Party takeovers in Republican primaries in recent years. There are some establishment Republicans that believe it's the only reason the Democrats are in control of the U.S. Senate, while the GOP has reason to be optimistic about their chances of retaking the Senate this November. Democrats are counting on the Tea Party to help them hold on. Their hope is that Tea Party candidates in competitive primaries either win or pull the so-called mainstream candidates too far to the right that it hurts those candidates in a general election. At the top of the list, it's states like Kentucky, where Mitch McConnell has to find a way around a Tea Party challenger, Matt Bevin. Matt Kibbe of the powerful Tea Party organization Freedom Works says even if he does, that the Democrat Allison Grimes will pose a formidable challenge.
If Mitch McConnell wins the primary, he's highly vulnerable in the general. And if you're worried about saving that seat, you may need to reconsider your premises.
In Georgia, there are 8 Republicans, including 3 House members, that are battling it out in a race that has seen some fiscal and social conservative pushing the entire group to the right. Democrats believe that could help Michelle Nunn in the general there. Then there are places like Alaska, where failed 2010 candidate Joe Miller is back and could make this a messy Republican primary, in a state where the GOP believes it has a golden opportunity to knock off Democrat Mark Begich. There's Colorado's Ken Buck. He ran and lost in 2010, and he would carry that baggage into a race against incumbent Mark Udall if he can get out of the primary. North Carolina Tea Party candidate Greg Brannon has been a thorn in the side of the Republican frontrunner Tom Tillis. And in Louisiana, Congressman Bill Cassidy has been pushed to the right by a Tea Party favorite, Rob Maness. And as we've said before, there are plenty of states where Republican incumbents are facing these conservative Tea Party challengers. That list includes Pat Roberts in Kansas, Thad Cochran in Mississippi, Lamar Alexander in Tennessee, Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, and of course, John Cornyn in Texas. But the senators and their allies don't intend to take the challenges lightly, and as evidenced by this super PAC ad that blasts Cornyn's primary opponent, Congressman Steve Stockman.
Lies, shady deals, ethical failings. It's everything that's wrong with Washington. And it's Congressman Steve Stockman's troubling record.
Joining me now is Brian Walsh. He's former spokesman for the National Republican Senatorial Committee, and Sal Russo. He's co-founder and chief strategist for the Tea Party Express. Brian, Sal.
Good to be with you.
How you doing there? Sal, I'm going to start with you because I think you might contend that my setup there buys into the premise that says the Tea Party has been a problem for Republicans regaining the Senate. Why is that not? Why do you not believe that's the case?
Well, I think you just look at the facts, starting with 2010. People like you and your fellow pundits said Democrats were going to gain seats in the House. We won 63 seats.
I don't know how many people thought they were going to gain seats, but go ahead. All right.
I mean, I think if you go back to early 2009, most people thought Democrats were going to win seats. And so that Tea Party injected so much energy and enthusiasm and excitement in the Republican Party that it led to that terrific election in 2010. In 2012, the Tea Party did quite well. We picked up, I think, like 27 House seats of Tea Party members. We won 3 of the 4 Senate races that we were in. So, it was really the establishment candidates that floundered in 2012. And frankly, even though we had primary opponents against them, we campaigned vigorously for them in, Wisconsin, Michigan, all over the country. Yeah. I think the thing that's most important is today, I think both the Tea Party and the more establishment people want to take the Senate. We know the problem is Harry Reid and Barack Obama. So we're going to have our dust up. But at the end of the day, I think there's going to be a united front to take the Senate and restore some physical sanity to Washington.
But Brian, given the political environment as it stands now, do you believe that if the Republicans do not gain control of the Senate, it is the sole fault of the Tea Party?
Well, I agree first with what Sal said. I believe the Tea Party energy was critical in 2010, but there's no question we conservatively gave away 5 Senate seats the last 2 cycles because of bad candidates.
And that's Nevada, that's Colorado,
Delaware.
That's Delaware, Indiana, and Missouri.
And Missouri.
Okay.
The good news, though, I think in a lot of these states that you listed where there are primaries, they're red states. I believe the incumbents are going to prevail in all of them, but regardless, the Democrats...
You really have 2 places that you're mildly...
Kentucky
is a big one. Kentucky's going to be a 50-50 race.
Kentucky and Georgia. I kind of had to laugh.
Maybe Mississippi, because the Democrats do contend they're going to find a candidate.
We'll see about that. I had to laugh a little bit when I see Matt Kibbe's interview and talking about how Mitch McConnell's vulnerable. Well, they've spent over $1 million in negative ads attacking Mitch McConnell the last couple of months. I think he's going to prevail. down regardless, though. But you know, Harry Reid and the Democrats are laughing all the way to Election Day.
But Sal, what do you say to the criticism? So, for instance, you look at Indiana. There would not, if you guys don't get behind Richard Murdoch, Dick Lugar is in the United States Senate today, and at a minimum, we're looking at 54-46, and it's 5 seats that the Republicans need, not 6. So that's 1. Mike Castle would be in the United States Senate. You can't sit here and say that that's not
Murdoch was a very good candidate. I mean, one of the biggest.
You really believe he was a good candidate? You may agree with him on principle, but he ran a horrible campaign.
No, I don't think I agree with that. I think one of the biggest problems he had is Dick Lugar didn't endorse him and didn't support him, and so he never was able to close the sale in those suburbs of Indianapolis, which were key. And so when he did have the slip of the tongue, it became a fatal slip of the tongue. But you know, I would put the blame on losing that thing squarely on Senator Lugar. And so what you can't have is, which we see sometimes, the establishment says, well, you have to support our candidate if we win, but we don't have to support your candidate when you win. The secret to success when you're losing elections, as Republicans have done, is you got to add. It's a question of addition, not subtraction.
Brian, respond to that a little bit, because there has been some cases where the primary went the wrong way and the establishment did walk away.
Well, look, I mean, the NRSC spent several $1 million for Richard Murdoch. I wish Senator Lugar had endorsed him. But there's also no question that if he and Todd Aiken and others hadn't, frankly, stuck their foot in their mouth, they'd be senators today, and they did not run the type of campaign that they should have. So, again, I just hope that, I agree, you know, the folks like Denny Rehberg and Rick Berg should have won last cycle, but at the same time, I would also hope that Tea Party groups would vet some of these candidates a little better. Someone like Christine O'Donnell and Sharon Engel were disastrous general election candidates.
This has been the knock on you, in the enthusiasm of sort of knocking out the establishment and shaking things up, that you back some questionable candidates. Joe Miller, frankly, was not vetted very well. Christine O'Donnell
let me quarrel with one thing that you said. Todd Aiken was not our candidate. I read that all the time. That's false. We supported Sarah Steelman.
Fair enough.
We did not think Todd Aiken was a good candidate. When he won the primary, we asked him to step down.
You guys were in one place. There were some others with Aiken, but go ahead.
Yes, but I do not think he was the Tea Party candidate in Missouri. There's a difference between 2012 and 2014 as compared to 2010. In 2010, there was no question the Tea Party movement emerged because both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party lost sight of spending, lost sight of growing the government. There was a frustration with both parties.
So you may have gotten ahead of your skis.
It was important in 2010 to stand up and kind of shake up the Republican Party and challenge people and say, look, we cannot spend ourselves into prosperity. We can't sustain this national debt that we're doing. And so, yes, we were a lot more aggressive in 2010. In 2012, we challenged one incumbent. I mean, we were not out there trying to defeat incumbents. Right. We were trying to grow the Republican caucus so that we would have a conservative majority in Washington. So some of the knocks, I think, are unfair.
Brian, when you look at Georgia, though, when you look at Democrats have had success recruiting candidates because of this perception that, you know what, the party primaries are going to move the Republican candidates too far to the right. Michelle Nunn, does she fully get in if she doesn't think the Republican primary isn't going to get messy and move to the right in Georgia? Let's look at North Carolina. I guess I would ask you this. If North Carolina and Georgia end up both Democrat, do you lay that at the feet of the Tea Party?
I think it's too early to tell right now. There's 7, 8 candidates running in Georgia right now. I think it's too early to tell. But look, Michelle Nunn, Kay Hagan, and a number of these other Democrats, their problem right now is Obamacare. And that's going to hang like an anchor around their neck no matter who the Republican nomination goes to this year.
Sal, Tea Party. We call it a Tea Party. Is it a party? What is it? Do you want it to be a political party that actually, you know, in an ideal world, would the conservative movement be split into two, a Republican Party and a Tea Party?
No, we have a two-party system. So, you know, I mean, ideally for me, I would like, and I think the Tea Party expressed, we'd like to have a physically conservative caucus in both the Republican and the Democratic parties. We can't really solve problems. Are
you going to look for Democrats? So what you're just saying you're going to try to find Democrats to endorse?
We have tried. The problem is, in fact, we did endorse one in 2010. But the problem is that with the pressure they get from Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama, even those Democrats that are unhappy with spending are fearful of stepping out. So it's nearly impossible for us to find a Democrat we can support.
Brian Walsh, you're tough on Twitter when it comes to some of these Tea Party groups. Are they an asset or not?
Some of them are. Look at Americans for Prosperity. They're spending millions of dollars going after the Democrats.
Like they're an asset.
They're an asset. There are other groups that, frankly, I believe are cannibalizing the party and are raising money at the expense of winning in November. But I think groups like Americans for Prosperity, I wish more other groups would follow their lead, because they're really taking it to the Democrats in Michigan, North Carolina, and elsewhere.
All right, we shall see. Brian Walsh, Sal Russo. Sal, a veteran of a lot of campaigns. Right. We were just reminiscing about the Jack Kemp days.
That's right.
Good to see you, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Brian Walsh, always good to catch up with you. Coming up, today's takeaway, all in the family. Former First Lady Barbara Bush doubles down on her opinion that the White